myself, oh my goodness. I know so many of you on the line here right now, but for those of you that don't know me, my name is Heather Blevins. I consider myself an official insurance rebel, a word collector, and pretty much a insurance training person for life. I absolutely love this community, and I feel incredibly blessed to be surrounded by greatness with Insight and with working with this organization. I'm a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry, worked in pretty much hung out in all the operational channels that you can imagine inside of a carrier, that big red company. And I appreciate all of you attending today to talk about this topic that I'm going to tell you straight up challenged me quite a bit whenever I was trying to prepare our material. So this is an interactive conversation. I'm going to have you all dropping some information in the chat for me. I do encourage you as well, unmute when you want to talk about something. But I can't see you in the background that well. So if somebody can let me know if somebody needs to talk or wants to contribute to the conversation, just holler that out for me so I can stop. But this topic was challenging for me because it was one that I really felt was absolutely crucial to the insurance industry and actually who we are as insurance professionals. Once again, I'm very thankful that Site has given me this opportunity just to come in here and talk with you and bring the subject to this amazing audience because our Site audiences are absolutely the best. And I will say up front, I don't consider myself to be an influencer. But I also don't believe that the discussion that I'm going to have with you all today is all about being a social influencer or even that word that a lot of us use called social selling. What I really hope that I am doing in the insurance industry right now, and what I'm going to encourage all of you to do as well, is to be the educators that you are. I want to be a thought provoker whenever I start talking about this kind of stuff. I want to be a creative thinker because this brain is full of ideas all of the time, and I need to use those ideas. And most of all, I hope that I can get every single person in this room and everyone that I reach out to within my insurance network to consider rebelling against the things that are holding us back as an industry. And one of those things is that we don't talk enough about insurance to the consumer public. So my goal here today is to challenge all of you to think about how are you going to use your voice in the spaces and places that you show up to help us to turn the tide of the negativity that we all see out there about insurance, which isn't the actual reality of what insurance is all about. So are you speaking into our industry? How can you contribute to that future voice of insurance conversation? Use your voice. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm starting this off with some challenges that I have for all of you today. So if any of you are note takers, grab the pen. You will get a video copy of this as well, so you can follow up. But think about these 3 challenges that we all need to be considering as we try to contribute to this conversation about insurance. We as individuals in the insurance industry have incredible power. I didn't know if you knew that or not. Like, you all are massively strong and you have such capability to influence and drive change in how insurance is perceived and interacted with. But, and I don't like using that word, but we have to be willing to embrace a growth mindset around this and actually take an active role to shape the narrative that's out there. So I'm going to challenge all of you to think about that. That's challenge number 1 today. My second challenge is I want you to consider how you as an individual are putting your voice into the conversation in our industry. How are you showing up today in whatever format that might be? And you have to understand that however you are showing up helps us as an industry not only to work to change consumer perceptions of the insurance industry as a whole, but it also helps people who are out there who purchase this product that they absolutely never want to use in their life, right? Because the claim is not the greatest thing that ever happens to people. But it also helps those people to see us as that community of people who work hard every single day in what we do in insurance to adapt to meet their needs and to be there for them. When we show our humanity in public as insurance professionals, it helps those people who are out there who are buying this product that they don't really understand to see that we're just people, just like them. We have everyday life experiences just like them. And we actually do care about them as people versus just the money that comes in the door and pays our paycheck. This type of engagement will help to shatter those negative perceptions of what insurance is. And we need to bring that humanity of who we are into the spheres where consumers interact too. That allows us that opportunity to demonstrate what insurance is all about is really about the people behind it. But there's kind of an extra bonus to that. It helps us to not only build the personal brand that we might have, but also the brands of the organizations that we work for, even though we may not even be authorized to speak on their behalf, just like I am not. I'm absolutely not a brand spokesperson. So I will give you a caution about that. When you start engaging in these worlds, if you're not a brand spokesperson for the Gecko or for Limu or for Flow or Mayhem or Jake, absolutely do your darndest and work your hardest to not put yourself in a place where you appear to be speaking on behalf of a brand of your organization. Your organization just gets the tangential rewards of you showing up and being part of that community. There's definitely a very fine line to walk with that. And I understand that a lot of people here on the line today might be concerned about, like, how do I walk that line? What in the world how do I do that? I was concerned about it. Shoot, I work for the biggest PNC carrier in the United States. How I accomplish that fine line of walking around in there is I don't ever pretend to speak on behalf of my company's brand. You just don't do that. I only engage as an industry professional who happens to have some opinions and thoughts of her own, and I throw out a disclaimer if I ever feel like anything could be misconstrued as to the voice of my company speaking. So that's just a little warning there. But the challenge for you again is, like, think about how you can put your voice into the community and the places that you're showing up. All right. So got to take you down a rabbit trail here for just a minute so you all can understand kind of what we're up against whenever we decide to step into these communities. And just throw this in the chat here for me. I know I posed this question out on my LinkedIn account, got a little bit of feedback and wanted people to kind of think about it prior to this session. Do you believe that consumers largely view the insurance industry as positive or negative, or are they pretty much essentially neutral about us? So throw that info in the chat here. I'd love to hear what all of you think. Ding, ding, ding. I'm getting an awful lot of the same answers here. Some of you said neutral. Appreciate that for sure. There's a huge number of you that kind of understand that the perception of insurance is pretty negative. I can tell you it's no secret. The U.S. property and casualty insurance industry does not always enjoy a sterling reputation among our consumers. And there's one insurance industry professor recently put it, the industry's rank in public opinion is somewhere between that of a personal injury lawyer and a used car salesman. Ouch, it kind of hurts, right? So I'm noticing some other people in the chat here talking about, like, probably negative unless they have a really good claims experience. A lot of that perception is driven by other factors. I see that, Victoria, you kind of dropped that in there. Most people, and you're right, Meg. I know, Meg, I saw your note in there as well, where you talked about it being neutral. But mostly what we see is the negative. So yeah, that's another piece of it as well. But Mary, you get frustrated. You see more and more expensive celebrities signing the big endorsements, and it feels like your premiums are going up. Ouch. Yeah, there's some truth to that too. Um, so we all kind of understand where we stand, the current sentiment of the insurance industry. The Insurance Journal actually wrote an article here recently quoting the president of the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, really called this kind of like almost a critical inflection point that we're sitting at in our industry right now. And you couple that with what I'm going to be talking about next, and well, it's a little bit of a downer feeling. So, everybody get excited, get happy, shake your arms, put a big smile on your face because I need to take you down into a little fun ride here for a moment that I did in preparation for this. And I call that Heather's research into the dark side of media and insurance. All right, so reality, this really isn't an insurance problem. Negativity actually rules whenever you're talking about how people consume their media. There's a growing body of evidence that illustrates the human tendency to prioritize negative over positive news content. But why is that? A lot of the research suggests it's in our brains. We may actually be neurologically or physiologically predisposed towards focusing on negative information because the potential cost of negative information far outweigh the potential benefits of positive information. So, ouch, we're kind of drawn, maybe even in our brains, to negative stories. And, that's what sells in the world today. So, media outlets that are sitting out there clamoring for market share are going to cater content towards a negative bent because it gets the clicks and the likes and the shares that they are looking for. So, I got to attend the Rise Professionals Conference a little bit earlier this year. And I don't know if any of you all follow Emma Roloff on LinkedIn. She's what I consider to be an insurance influencer, but also a massive educator about this particular topic as well. And she talked about how what's the perception of the insurance industry? And she kind of ran a little informal research experiment that she talked about at the conference. She engaged versus positive content about the insurance industry. And she literally created a video where she looked exactly the same and but she talked in one video in a really negative tone about insurance. And then she also created an almost identical video that was very positive, the positive story, the uplifting story, the goodness, the humanity of insurance. Guess which video, hands down, had a much higher interaction and impression rate? Anybody want to guess? Yeah, it was the negative one. It's tough. So consumers gravitate towards the sentiments and feelings they already possess, and they identify with those sentiments very regularly. So yes, we are kind of naturally built to gravitate towards negative information in media, whatever form it takes. So yes, this isn't just our image perception of the insurance industry as a whole, but for us, it's an even bigger issue because by and large, consumer trust of insurance is way, way, way down. And yes, Chantel, we're going to talk about this. Before I give you the data, though, I'm gonna challenge any of the data people in the room. If I have a data person in the room, please just unmute and tell me your best guess of the percentage of auto insurance customers who have a high level of trust in their insurance carrier. Who's going to take a shot at that?
I don't know, but I thought I had heard something to the effect of 90% of people don't trust the claims department.
All right, Lamont, you have a good guess there, 12%. I heard the opposite of that, like low level of trust at 90%. So we're going to flip over here to the most recent JD Powers report. This is consumer trust of their auto insurance company. Ouch. It's better than 1% for sure, Victoria. Only 15% of consumers report a high level of trust in their auto insurance carrier each. So people may rely on us as insurance companies when things go wrong, but that doesn't mean that they actually trust us. And the really hard thing about this is that not a single insurer made the cut in the Consult Intelligence Survey that had the most trusted brands of 2024. You see trusted brand, the most trusted brands are companies like UPS and Amazon and Home Depot. And surprisingly enough, Visa is one of the most trusted companies and the most trusted brands right now. I had my head like spinning when they said Visa. I don't know how many people would have that. And Mike, you're asking why. It's all about like how they show up, but also, yeah, Lamont, you hit it right on the head. Instant gratification. I get my thing and I get what I want and I get to move on. Now that's about brand of the insurance company. And brand about these what these brands offer and the products that they offer. But we're in a battle here, folks. Oh yeah, UPS does mess it up. We're battling that natural human tendency that we have in our brains where our amygdala gets hijacked and we feel like we need to like focus on the negative because that's something that we can solve, and like that fight or flight response kicks in and we get almost an adrenaline rush from that with our negative news consumption. We're also battling, as we try to create the messages that we're trying to create, the trust factor of the insurance industry as a whole. And that makes our messaging 100% all the more crucial as to how we put it out there. So I'm not going to bring you down any further, but these are just a couple of other things that are kind of influencing consumer opinion about insurance. Obviously, there's a ton of misinformation about our insurance, about the industry as a whole. But that's also because we don't battle against that. We don't fight against that negative news cycle that's out there. We're also in an incredibly negative news cycle right now due to world events, like all the stuff that you hear about, the really tough stuff that you're hearing about in the world about, oh gosh, elections and wars and all those other things. And frankly, folks, we have a really outdated snail-like technology image in the insurance industry as well. We're really slow to adopt and get on board with getting the people-driven technology digital transformations that we need. And yes, Victoria, I have heard that rumor that Amazon's trying to start an insurance arm, but if you ask Elon about that, he's not enjoying being an insurance company right now, as a major tech brand. But the other piece of this is that the expectations of us as an industry are set by those folks that deliver that instant gratification service, the biggest tech brands in the marketplace today. You've got your Microsofts and your Amazons and your Meta and your Google. My gosh, the product that they sell is so very different than what we sell in insurance, right? So keeping it real, again, just re-stressing here, this is why the messaging that you put out into our industry today and about our industry and about who you are and humanizing insurance is so very, very key. All right, I'm going to check out. Somebody's got a really nice note in here. Today's market.
Hey, Heather.
Yeah, go ahead.
This whole conversation is actually reminding me of something I saw on LinkedIn. Oh, I don't know, about maybe a month ago, about even how we as professionals talk about ourselves and how we ended up in the industry. Because a lot of people describe getting into the industry as, we fell into this. We didn't, we if we didn't really want to go into this industry, but we took a job and we ended up getting stuck in here, or something like that, and how changing that narrative is as important. And when I saw that, I was kind of like, that's right. And so as part of changing that narrative, I've started calling myself a legacy, because my mom has been in the insurance industry for over 30 years. Well, I mean, longer than that even. But so I've changed my narrative that way to say, hey, I'm a legacy in the industry. It might not have been what she wanted, but I found a great job here, and has done exactly what it did for her for me. So I call myself a legacy. So even changing that perspective of how we talk to people, I think is important too, because it's not just I fell into it or I got stuck with it because it was my first job out of college. It's also changing that narrative to make it seem like it's more of a great choice to be in this industry.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And the fact that you are grasping and putting that together tells me that you understand this at a level that is amazing, because that's part of what I'm going to talk about here in just a moment as well. It's so crucial that we stop talking about what we do as if it wasn't like a good thing, you know. And I know, Mike, you started the big conversation about insurance finding you. To me, that totally shifts that narrative. That's just one way that we can shift the narrative about what insurance is all about, and stop apologizing for it. You're absolutely right. But we know that change is hard. Why? Because we're almost like ingrained. That negativity is almost ingrained in us, and it's really, frankly, scary. So we know that that's a problem, but how do we change and how do we really address that? How do we move beyond all of this negative narrative about insurance? So I'm going to talk to you about some things, but I'm going to give a couple people an opportunity to just pop into the conversation here. And you've already done that, which is awesome for one of you. Can someone step up here and tell me how you feel that we can start to shift the negative narrative about insurance?
I can answer that.
Mhm.
Everybody here has a lot of experience. Why not use it? We've got corporate attorneys all over the country, especially some of the largest brokers in the world, having it shoved down their throat that let's follow the order taker standard and leave it up to the policyholder. To me, that's no different than you going to see your doctor and him asking you what's wrong with you and how would you like me to treat you. And I'll tell you why that doesn't work. Number one, some of these brokerages are publicly traded, and yet in one instance, they have over $300 million in reserves for E&O claims. So how's the order taker standard working out for them?
Okay.
If you provide the expertise, if you give the advice, and more importantly, document it,
Yeah.
you're not going to have an E&O claim or it's going to be over quickly. And that's the point. What would you rather do? Have attorneys defend you or not have a claim at all? And that's the problem with the order taker standard that's now being followed in 37 states. Whether or not you want to believe that this is an opportunity for the supply side to dominate the consumer, well, let me point out to the people on that. Suppliers are also consumers. And that didn't work out very well recently for Pharmacia when they had to cover $47 million of a $207 million settlement because an excess carrier said, oh, the underlying insurers didn't admit liability, and we have a requirement in our policy that they must. So not only was that layer of excess out, and if I recall from the decision, it was the sixth layer, everybody above them was out as well. So that this Pharmacia had to cover $47 million of a $207 million settlement. So how's that working out for the supply side? And that's what's wrong. And I think, as I've predicted, if some of these brokerages provided advice that they have the expertise to do, they could reduce their E&O claim reserves probably by more than 2/3.
Absolutely. Use your knowledge. My goodness. There's so much expertise on the line here right now, and we have to be able to not be afraid to use that in all of the conversations that we show up in. Chantel, you had something else to add?
I do. Let's see here. I was going to see if I can lower my hand. Okay. So I have a lot of ideas. Some of them I keep close to my vest because I'm like, oh, those insurance companies just need to hire me and I can help them. But one of the things I think it is that we do not educate our consumers well enough because, as the great Bill Wilson says, we're always talking about price. And I challenge my students when I'm talking to them, especially in the marketing aspect of the book that we're, studying. I'll say, all right, let's do an advertisement. And they all still come up with price. And I continuously challenge them to try to look at this as in a different way. How many of you know how to read a policy? Well, none of them do, even the ones that work in insurance.
Yeah.
And I say, why aren't we, using those 30 seconds to teach them how to read a policy? Oh, it can't be done. Yeah, it can, and I can show you how to do it. Um, you know, I think our industry looks at insurance in the backwards. I think we should look at claims and work backwards because claims is where the rubber meets the road. That's why people are buying insurance. You are buying insurance to get some damage paid. I mean, that's the reason why you got it. So, let's start focusing on our customers rather than our stakeholders and our stockholders. Um, and go there. So I did put in the chat that I disagreed with Mary with the title of adjuster only because the reason I say adjuster is okay is because I tell adjusters, you're an adjuster, adjust the claim, stop living and dying by these rules that I can only settle for X amount, but that's a whole different podcast. So there you go.
Absolutely. So some of you were kind of talking about like the industry issues again and like how individuals may be able to evolve that narrative. I'm gonna challenge all of you to think about like keeping yourself sharp whenever keeping your insurance thought leadership as an individual who's been in the industry for a while up. Now, writing for an insurance journal or putting out content and writing in different spaces maybe most of the time isn't really going to be media directed at ourselves, but it helps us, it helps the rest of us in the industry to be able to feed some of that knowledge back into consumers who are not part of our industry and by and large don't understand insurance very well. Also, we have to get people, we have to get kids at a young age to understand insurance better. How many of you have ever thought about volunteering through high schools to teach about insurance? How many of you have ever thought about maybe starting a program to teach high school students about insurance? Chantel and somebody else. Let's go to the somebody else because Chantel, I know you've already talked, but is there somebody
Yep.
else that has talked here?
I guess I might be the somebody else.
Yeah.
My name is Charisse. And yes, I have thought about that diligently, and I am reaching out to my community to see if there is an actual need for me to be out there in the high school community or the middle school community just to get the children engaged in what that looks like. Especially here in Florida, they go through a lot of hurricanes, they go through a lot of tropical storm events. But how does that relate to how their parents are taking care of the home? How is that impacting them on a day-to-day and really bridging that gap? So I have reached out to a couple of my local schools, and I'm just waiting to see if it's something they're encouraged to add to the curriculum.
Yeah, I know it's tough. It's an uphill battle. And Frederick, you talked there about teaching at colleges too. I have had the distinct pleasure of being an adjunct professor at a couple of universities, and I will tell you, except for my risk management and insurance students, and even them, a lot of the times because they're early in their education, they don't have a very good grasp or understanding of what insurance is at all. So I feel like if we can start young and start teaching it younger, preparing these kids that are coming through schools for what faces them as adults, making insurance decisions and understanding like the bigger purpose, more noble purpose of insurance and telling those stories. That's how we're going to shift this narrative. That's how we're going to push the next generation to understand us a little bit better. So I do appreciate all of you. Charisse, did you have something else you wanted to add?
No.
Okay, yeah, I just saw your hand. I'm seeing hands raising and I can't see everybody out there. So Mike, did you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I think there's already programs today in the industry and they're typically through the independent agents associations and states. And so I can speak to Florida. I spent the last 9 years there before I retired. The FAIA has a program there called Invest, and they work through local schools. It's always high schools. In many cases, they pair with a program called DECA, which is for juniors and seniors in high school. And they sort of are trying to prepare them for business, right? And make decisions about what schools they may be going to after they graduate from high school. But Invest, what the involvement I've had with Invest through my prior carrier was we would meet with those students. Typically during the school year, we would go in and talk to them. Sometimes I'd partner up with SIU. Sometimes I'd partner up with the product development team. And we would go in and we would talk about what insurance is, because most don't have any idea. And then more importantly, we talked about careers. And we talked about, we used a lot of the information from, at least I did, from the collaborative work that the institutes did. I'm going to get this wrong. Lamont's on the call, so he'll probably remember the name of it if you throw it in the chat. But it's insuremycareer.org. I think it, don't hold me to that. But it's a great website. It hasn't been updated much recently, but it gives sort of this a roadmap, if you will, if you're thinking about jumping into the insurance industry and why it's important. So some of this doesn't have to be sort of created. These things are there. Now, whether your local independent agents association has adopted Invest, I would reach out to them first, because if the process is in place, it's a great way, if you're willing to spend your time to go into these classrooms and talk to juniors and seniors in high school. They're the most impressionable minds, in my opinion. And I would tell you, after we left, the cadre of people from the company I worked for, they had a different experience, a different understanding what insurance was. It wasn't just sales. A lot of people think of it as, oh, I don't want insurance because it's a salesperson. Well, we all know that's only a part of the organizations that we represent, and Invest is a great way to do that. So just a thought, something's there already. It might save you some time.
Yeah, if somebody can throw the link for Invest in there into the chat, it looks like Sharice is looking for that. A couple of other spaces that you can step into. Some of people on the line here are doing this, and they're giving master classes on how to do this as well. Podcasting, talking about the humanity of insurance professionals through podcasting as well. Writing books. We have several authors on the line here as well. Bring your expertise into places where individual consumers can consume it. But I can tell you, by and large, the most powerful tool we all have at our disposal is what? Social media. It's everywhere. It's how things are sold and bought. It's how people transact business. It's how people consume news, consume media. And for insurance, there's a lot of stories out there on social media that are good and bad. But how do we work hard to highlight the good of what we do in the space that we all, in the sphere that we all have access to, and we can all contribute to the conversation? Number one, I'm going to tell you all, get active, get engaged, show up, be transparent, be who you are. Because realistically, we've all talked about some of the challenges that we have as insurance. And one of those is a transparency issue in insurance. But if we show up authentically as the professionals that we have, with the expertise that we have, and lend our voice to thought leadership in whatever format that might be, we can help to break down some of those barriers, you know. And when it comes to marketing and being able to like market us as an industry, individual companies, all of your carriers and all the people out there offering insurance products, we have fantastic, great marketing campaigns, right? But as far as the industry educational piece as a whole, we're not very good at that. We got to get better at that. And we've got to inspire all of you who have all the expertise that you actually have to start these small movements that can create ripples through the channels that you have, so that we can better educate our consumer public about who we are behind the scenes in insurance. So that's a big mountain to climb when you think about it, right? But each of us have an ability to be able to do that. We just got to take the baby steps necessary. And I get, like, by and large, it feels weird right? To talk about this thing that we just said that we need to stop talking, saying that we fell into as a job. It feels odd. It feels a little awkward at times, especially if we weren't in those sales roles as agents and trying to develop those client relationships and everything. But I'd even challenge you all, just as we've talked a little bit earlier today, we've got to stop talking about our job as if it wasn't an option and that we fell into it and it was the worst thing ever. And oh, well, we're kind of in between a personal injury attorney and a used car salesman. That's the perception that people get of us when we talk about what we do. And we don't speak about the nobility of our insurance. Mike, you started this movement, I will say, and I appreciate it so much when you helped us all to start reframing the idea that insurance found me. That to me is a holistic shift of a positive spin on here's this mass industry that touches every single facet of society. And it found me so that I could contribute back to society in that way. And it implies that the industry is something good that sought us out because we had something to contribute to it. So let's all stop saying those words, just like Mary's got all of her words that you cannot put into your PowerPoints or say when you're talking about things like deal and got. Let's stop saying we fell into insurance and start talking about telling our stories about how insurance found us. And it's all about, folks, I'm a storyteller. I think it's so important that we utilize the power of the stories that we have. Because that's what helps to make insurance more human. Now, I'm not stealing a particular insurance company's logo and title, but yes, there is a company out there that actually their whole brand is making insurance human. But our stories actually do make insurance human. So some ways that we want to get involved whenever we're talking about social media, especially. Number one, I know it's hard. I get it. We're all incredibly busy running people all the time, and we feel like there's just so much that we have to get done in life. But you've got to make time and be intentional about getting active and getting engaged. And there's no day like today. Like the best day to start that is today. And my encouragement for you about getting active, getting engaged, getting your voice out there in social media, start small. Comment on some people's posts. Put your thoughts into other people's content. Don't worry about the perfection of what you're writing because that just demonstrates, again, your humanity and who you are. Pick a platform. I will say for our industry as well, LinkedIn is probably definitely the best because there's a lot of noise and a lot of the other social channels that I don't know that all of you really want to delve your life into, but LinkedIn is definitely one of the best. And be very incredibly intentional about what you have to say. I will tell you personally, I don't spend countless hours scouring social media and thinking, overthinking what I might be posting about, despite the fact that I am pretty much a pretty big overthinker. But I am very intentional about the time that I spend out there, and I plan out things that I'm going to say in social media in an attempt to educate again, especially whenever I'm out there in the LinkedIn world. That's how I operate. I'm very intentional about what I consume, but also what I put out there, and I schedule it. And I will tell you, there's a few formulas that you can use, even if you're not using like the premium version of LinkedIn, that will help you a little bit with that. If you post 2 times a week, 2 original posts 2 times a week, and you engage and interact 5 times a day, those formulas will help you to bring up the engagement so that the visibility of what you are putting out there gets in front of people. I haven't paid a dime to boost a single thing that I've ever posted on LinkedIn because I just don't really believe in that. And I feel like that there's ways to be able to get communities of people engaging with things without actually having to do that. If you choose to do that, that's great. You may be operating a business via social media. So I understand that completely. But if you're an insurance professional just looking to expand your voice and start speaking back into that community, Just start engaging with things. Another thing as well, and some of the people on the line here are absolutely master class educators at this as well, use humor as your connecting point. Humor, and when we laugh, gosh, it changes so many things physiologically about us as human beings. We react to humor and we engage it at a very, very, very high level. There's another individual that is a master at using humor out on LinkedIn to teach and also prove a point. If you're not following an individual named Curtis Goldsboro, please follow him. He's got some content out there that I look forward to every single day because of the fact that it makes me laugh. But he also speaks very, very plainly about real issues in insurance that we need to be addressing as an industry. So hop on out on LinkedIn, follow Mr. Curtis Goldsboro, and get his content into your feed. You can learn a ton from that as well. Thank you, Meg, for throwing in his LinkedIn profile there. The other thing that you need to be doing as well is take some time to study how your audience reacts to what you put into social media. Go out there and look at the analytics behind the scenes as well. And I'm going to show you all something now. I'm not showing you this to be able to brag, to say like, hey, I got this amazing post and all of that. What I'm showing you here is that humor matters, and that staying on top of and studying the impressions and studying the analytics helps you to understand what works with audiences. This particular post, I actually threw it out in a group on LinkedIn, in the claims interest group. I stole the meme. I will 100% admit that. I stole the meme from somebody else somewhere. And I was like, let's just throw this out and see how people will react to it. Little Monday morning humor for all of our claims friends that are out there. It's all we ask. Just put the claim number in the subject line, folks. That's all we want. Just makes our lives easier. Every single claims person out there is like, whoa, I feel this. I was shocked at how much reaction that this particular post got. And by the way, this is just the claims interest group of the CPCU Society that I threw out there. Want to throw up on the screen as well so you all can see this. This particular post 3 weeks ago, posted out there. I think that's pretty impressive for a group on LinkedIn. First of all, I know that I don't have the followership, neither does the claims interest group, of 1 million followers out there. But this post was discovered 95,076 times. It was actually 93,000 earlier today. So it's grown just today as well. We've got tons of reactions, tons of comments, 107 reposts on this particular post. This is the kind of stuff you want to be studying to understand what's working for content for the audience that you're working and the content. And the other thing that I can't stress enough about what you're putting into the social media worlds that you're in, 100% please be yourself. Authenticity absolutely matters. I'm not saying don't use AI to get yourself started with a post, because goodness, thought generation is really good, and coming up with creative ideas all the time is important. But don't just let AI craft your entire message and throw it out there. People will know that. And they will see right through any AI generated content that really is not in your voice. So who can you watch out there and learn a ton from? And these people come from all different types of spectrums across across the industry. I mentioned Emma Roloff. She's the first up in the upper left-hand corner there. Nancy German puts out some amazing content as well. That's very, it's geared towards our industry, but it's also really educational. You've got Curtis Goldsboro, who's hanging out with all the humor. You've got Mike, he puts a ton of really cool stuff out there as well. You've got Brett McKenzie, who actually owns a company called Coverse Communications. She's definitely speaking about all of that. You've got Abby Potter Clow. She's over here on the far right. Abby is putting out some incredible content too, just speaking about here's this life that I'm living, and I want everybody to be able to see it and see what I'm doing. We all know Tony Kanyas in the bottom left-hand corner. Tony is one of these master people at focusing on engagement, but also just educating and educating and educating across the industry. Chantel is in there as well. She puts out some really fun and hilarious content a lot of the time. I do look forward to Chantel's post. Meg, again, talk about transparency and authenticity. Meg's got it down. Like, she is who she is, and she's never going to hide from that, and she's going to show that all the time. We also have Sandy Avina. You all may not know her as well, but I just have been connecting with her content, and she's producing some incredible and thought-provoking content, a lot of fun content as well. You see Patrick Wright here. Patrick is Mr. Keep Learning all the time. He's encouraging people to continue to do this. And then Dominic Lee as well. I don't know if all of you follow Dominic or not, but if you've ever wanted to follow a funny actuary, Dominic is a funny actuary, folks. And Precious, hold on here as well. Oh, by the way, I got another page of folks that I feel like you need to follow too. Mr. Bill Wilson, he is Mr. Insurance Coverage person himself. Yes, it's no, Chantel, it's not an oxymoron. Just follow Dominic Lee. You will really, really enjoy it. And yes, but wait, there's more. Michael Young, he's a talented and incredibly funny insurance attorney out of St. Louis who does insurance defense. Michael puts out, he also has a podcast now, which like is really cool because he tells these stories through his podcast about in really amazing insurance cases in the past. So follow that. Morgan Dooley of Dooley Warned. I will tell you, Morgan's content will make you absolutely crack up laughing if you have ever worked in the claims industry, but she is definitely on the razor edge of everything for sure. So censorship warning, just be prepared. Everything that's going to come out of Morgan is going to be really raw. Marissa Buckley has some incredible content out there as well. She's really fun to listen to. And then in our bottom right-hand corner from the insurance industry, and then I'll kind of go back left here again, Miss Precious Norman Walton, who I'm so thankful that our lives and paths have crossed, because she speaks and lives everything that she is. She gives back to the industry every single day. So definitely appreciate all of that. And then this individual right here to the left, Saya Hillman. I had the pleasure of meeting Saya when I went to the Women in Insurance Conference in Chicago last year, and like her whole world view will help you to understand how to put positivity back into the social spheres. Absolutely, we can send a follow-up email of all the names that I'm mentioning and maybe some LinkedIn profiles to connect with them as well. Happy to do that. Saya, though, just take a moment. I actually wrote a post on LinkedIn this week about how much one of Saya's posts like hit me in the gut. And she has content that makes you really think, but also makes you laugh and smile and see what she is living her life as a life of yes. So these are all individuals that I feel like are really great for us to learn from as we're trying to step our feet and toes into the world of speaking back into the insurance industry. So I know we're coming up really close on time, and I don't have a ton of time for a lot of questions, but I just want to remind all of you that we are absolutely nothing without the stories that we have. And we're also pretty much nothing if we don't tell those stories. There's a very powerful verse that's waiting for your expertise, your insurance self to show up and represent. And I would encourage all of you to take on those challenges that I talked about at the very, very beginning of our conversation and connect and be a part of that continuing powerful verse that we can speak back into the community and shift this tide where everybody's talking about all the bad stuff that's happening in insurance. All right, so I'm going to throw this up on the screen, and I'm just going to let anybody raise their hand or just maybe unmute if you have any questions about anything.
Yes, Heather, this is Greg Lentz, Training Development Supervisor for Pacesetter Claims. Just quick question. Great topic. A lot of psychology here. I'm a big fan of Albert Einstein, who was so good at distilling complex information down to thought experiments. And it usually always boils down to anything we do boils down to human psychology and relationships, regardless of what you do. But that's my quick comment. But I wanted to ask real quick, I didn't record this. Will you send out, or is there any way I can get a link to the recording?
Absolutely. We record all of our site webinars and we post them out on our YouTube channel. And in the follow-up email that I can send to all of you as attendees, I can include all the links to the profiles of people that we would suggest that you start looking into and learning from and following from and kind of engaging with their content in the social world. But we'll also get you a link to that YouTube video as well. Meg, did you have a question?
I do. More of a comment, maybe. This is great, Heather. I'm feeling rejuvenated. I'm feeling challenged to, even though I'm on social media and I'm, prolific in sharing my story, that there's more that I can do to connect both the human experience we're having as consumers of insurance, but this next generation. It's the same problem both ways. We've got a lack of exposure and then a lack of confidence. And I think we can solve that in similar ways. I would like to maybe issue a bit of a call to action, because I'm sitting here thinking of all the things that I can do, knowing I will do none of them, right? But I'm going to create some sort of a post on LinkedIn doing like a day in the life of, and I think all of us, we tend to put ourselves in these buckets. We're in claims, we're in underwriting, but what does that actually look like? And I'm feeling really inspired to do that. So maybe somebody else would like to join me and we can tag site and kind of create something there.
Absolutely. All right, Meg, you just got that added to the follow-up email that we are going to have the LinkedIn challenge for each and every one of you out there to talk about the day in the life and speak back into the communities that we're present in. Mike, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, Heather, as you were kind of going through LinkedIn, it's such a powerful tool, and your followers have followers, I guess. Your connections have connections.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that crossed my mind as I was going through this is to every post I do now, I'm going to put a challenge in there to say, if you think that what I've written here has value to you, please repost. Sort of encourage people. I don't always think of doing that when I see something really great out there to repost it. And you don't even have to add a comment. Just the fact that you have learned something from someone else and now you want to share it. The potential spread of information is even more significant. And I think it's something I'm going to commit myself to, and I would offer everybody else. So I read Meg all the time, and I'm going to start reposting Meg so that hopefully we don't have all the same connections, but the message continues to be. It's like there was a commercial years ago for a particular product. I think it was a hair product, basically. And we told someone, and the screen started filling up with pictures of people. And before long, you couldn't even tell they were faces anymore. They were just colors. That's the value of LinkedIn. It's so profound as a business tool. And so just a thought as we go forward, think about doing that.
Yeah, 100%. So thank you all so much for joining me today and for joining in on being a part of something that is so much greater and so much bigger than all the rest of us and what we do day in and day out. And cannot wait to see you at the next site webinar. I appreciate all of you and I hope you have a great rest of your day.